Picture this, a sprawling palace filled with whispers of power, where emperors ruled with divine authority and courtiers navigated a labyrinth of secrets, rituals, and deadly intrigue. This was the Byzantine Court, a world where every gesture, every ceremony, and every decision was shrouded in mystery. What if I told you that behind the glittering facade of gold and purple, there were practices so strange, so secretive, that they've puzzled historians for centuries? From hidden libraries filled with forbidden knowledge to the use of poison as a political weapon, the Byzantine court was a place where power was not just wielded, it was performed. Today, we're diving into the shadows of one of history's most enigmatic empires to uncover 25 of its most mysterious practices. These aren't just stories, they're windows into a world where every detail was calculated, every ritual had meaning, and every secret could mean the difference between life and death. So, if you're ready to step into the golden halls of the Byzantine Empire and uncover the secrets that shaped its legacy, keep watching. By the end of this video, you'll see history in a whole new light, and you might just find yourself questioning what you thought you knew about power, intrigue, and the lengths people will go to keep their secrets safe. Let's begin. Now, let's step into the shadows of the Byzantine court and uncover the first of these mysterious practices, the Silentium. Imagine a room where the most powerful figures in the empire gathered, not to debate openly, but to deliberate in absolute secrecy. This was the Silentium, a council so shrouded in mystery that even its name means silence. Originating in the early days of the Byzantine Empire, the Silentium was no ordinary meeting. It was a carefully orchestrated ritual of power. Its purpose was clear: to make critical decisions away from the prying eyes of the public and even other members of the court. Only the most trusted advisors, high-ranking officials, and sometimes the emperor himself were allowed to attend. These were individuals who held immense influence, yet their discussions were never recorded, and their decisions were often announced without explanation. The Silentium wasn't just about secrecy, it was about control. By keeping the decision-making process hidden, the emperor could maintain an aura of infallibility, as if his decrees were divinely inspired rather than the result of political maneuvering. The air of mystery surrounding the Silentium only added to its power. Courtiers whispered about what might have been discussed behind those closed doors, and rumors spread like wildfire. Was it a matter of war, a plot against a rival, or perhaps a new law that would change the lives of thousands? No one outside the room could say for sure. This deliberate ambiguity kept everyone on edge, ensuring loyalty and obedience through fear of the unknown. The Silentium wasn't just a council, it was a tool of psychological manipulation, a reminder that in the Byzantine court, knowledge was power and silence was its greatest weapon. And as we'll see, this practice set the tone for many of the other mysterious rituals and strategies that defined the empire. But for now, let's move deeper into the golden halls of the Byzantine court, where even the throne room held secrets of its own. Now, let's step into the heart of the Byzantine court, where power and divinity intertwined in the most dazzling displays of authority, the Chrysotriklinos. This golden throne room was more than just a place for the emperor to sit. It was a stage for some of the most elaborate and symbolic rituals in the empire. Picture a room bathed in gold, its walls shimmering with mosaics that depicted scenes of divine favor and imperial triumph. Here, the emperor wasn't just a ruler, he was a figure halfway between man and God, and the ceremonies held in the Chrysotriklinos were designed to make that clear to everyone who witnessed them. One of the most striking rituals was the emperor's reception of foreign ambassadors. These events were meticulously choreographed to awe and intimidate. As the ambassadors entered, they would be greeted by a sea of courtiers dressed in their finest robes, all standing in perfect order. The emperor, seated on his golden throne, would be surrounded by symbols of his divine right to rule, jewels, sacred relics, and even the flickering light of countless candles that seemed to elevate him to an almost otherworldly status. Every movement, every word was calculated to reinforce the idea that the emperor was not just a political leader, but a chosen vessel of divine will. But the Chrysotriklinos wasn't just about impressing outsiders. It was also a space where the emperor's connection to the divine was reaffirmed through sacred ceremonies. One such ritual involved the emperor receiving a crown from the hands of a high-ranking church official, symbolizing the union of spiritual and earthly power. This act wasn't just symbolic, it was a reminder to everyone in the room that the emperor's authority was sanctioned by heaven itself. What made these rituals even more powerful was their exclusivity. Only the most trusted members of the court and select foreign dignitaries were ever allowed to witness them. For everyone else, the Chrysotriklinos remained a place of mystery, its secrets guarded as closely as the empire's most precious treasures. This air of secrecy only added to the emperor's mystique, making his power seem even more unassailable. The Chrysotriklinos' rituals were more than just ceremonies. They were a carefully crafted performance of power designed to inspire awe, loyalty, and fear. And as we'll see next, this blend of spectacle and secrecy was a recurring theme in the Byzantine court, shaping everything from its politics to its most intimate traditions. But for now, let's turn our attention to another group of individuals who played a crucial, yet often overlooked, role in the empire's intricate web of power, the eunuchs of the Byzantine court. Now, let's shift our focus to a group of individuals who wielded immense power behind the scenes, yet often remained shrouded in mystery, the eunuchs of the Byzantine court. These men, who had undergone castration, held a unique and paradoxical position in the empire. While they were excluded from certain traditional roles, such as military service or the priesthood, they became indispensable figures in the administration and politics of the Byzantine court. Their influence was so profound that they often rivaled even the most powerful nobles and generals. So why were eunuchs chosen for such critical roles? The answer lies in the Byzantine court's obsession with loyalty and control. Eunuchs were seen as less likely to form rival dynasties or challenge the emperor's authority, as they could not father heirs. This made them ideal candidates for positions of trust, where they could manage sensitive tasks without the risk of personal ambition threatening the throne. Over time, eunuchs became the emperor's eyes and ears, overseeing everything from the imperial treasury to the management of the palace itself. Their roles extended far beyond mere administration. They were advisors, confidants, and even diplomats, shaping the empire's policies and alliances. One of the most famous eunuchs in Byzantine history was Narses, who served under Emperor Justinian I. Narses was not only a skilled administrator but also a military commander, leading armies to victory in Italy and solidifying Byzantine control over key territories. His success highlights the unique advantages eunuchs brought to the empire: loyalty, intelligence, and the ability to navigate the complex web of court politics with finesse. However, the power of eunuchs was not without controversy. Their close relationship with the emperor often bred resentment among the nobility, who saw them as outsiders wielding undue influence. Critics accused eunuchs of manipulating the emperor for their own gain, and their involvement in court intrigues sometimes led to accusations of corruption or betrayal. Yet, despite these tensions, eunuchs remained a cornerstone of Byzantine governance for centuries, their presence a testament to the empire's pragmatic approach to power. The role of eunuchs in the Byzantine court reveals a fascinating paradox. Men who were physically marginalized became central to the empire's political and administrative machinery. Their story is a reminder of how the Byzantine court thrived on complexity, blending tradition with innovation to maintain its grip on power. And as we'll see next, this intricate system extended even further into the realm of symbols and rituals that defined the empire's identity. But for now, let's turn our attention to one of the most iconic symbols of Byzantine royalty, the imperial purple dye. Now, let's step into a world where color was more than just a visual delight. It was a symbol of absolute power and divine authority. The imperial purple dye, known as Tyrian purple, was one of the most coveted and mysterious substances in the Byzantine Empire. This vibrant hue, derived from the secretions of the murex sea snail, was not just a color, it was a statement. Wearing garments dyed in this shade was a privilege reserved exclusively for the emperor and his closest circle, a visual declaration of their unmatched status. The production of Tyrian purple was an arduous and costly process, adding to its mystique. Thousands of murex snails were required to produce just a single gram of dye, making it one of the most expensive commodities of its time. The snails were harvested from the eastern Mediterranean, and the dye-making process was a closely guarded secret passed down through generations of artisans. The result was a rich, deep purple that didn't fade over time, a quality that only heightened its allure. But the rarity of the dye wasn't the only reason it became a symbol of power. The Byzantine court enforced strict laws to control its use. Only the emperor and his immediate family were permitted to wear garments dyed in Tyrian purple, and anyone else caught wearing it faced severe penalties, including exile or even death. This exclusivity turned the color into a powerful political tool. When an emperor appeared in public draped in purple, it wasn't just a fashion statement, it was a reminder of his divine right to rule and the unbreakable hierarchy of the empire. The imperial purple also played a key role in diplomacy and intrigue. Foreign dignitaries and allies were sometimes gifted purple-dyed robes as a sign of imperial favor, a gesture that carried immense symbolic weight. Conversely, withholding the privilege of wearing purple could be a subtle yet potent form of political punishment. The dye became a language of its own, communicating loyalty, power, and even betrayal without a single word being spoken. This obsession with Tyrian purple reveals much about the Byzantine court's approach to power. It wasn't just about wealth or military might, it was about creating an aura of invincibility and divine connection. The imperial purple dye was more than a color. It was a carefully crafted symbol that reinforced the emperor's authority and the empire's mystique. And as we'll see next, this fascination with symbols extended even further into the realm of secretive rituals and ceremonies that defined life in the Byzantine court. But for now, let's turn our attention to another shadowy aspect of Byzantine power, the secret police known as the agents in rebus. Now, let's pull back the curtain on one of the most shadowy elements of the Byzantine court, the agents in rebus, the empire's secret police. Operating in the shadows, these agents were the unseen hands that kept the emperor's power secure, weaving a web of surveillance and control that stretched across the empire. Their name, which translates to agents in affairs, hints at their far-reaching influence, but their true role was far more complex and far more sinister. The agents in rebus were not just ordinary enforcers, they were masters of espionage, intelligence gathering, and covert operations. Their duties ranged from monitoring potential threats within the empire to infiltrating foreign courts to gather secrets. They were the eyes and ears of the emperor, ensuring that no whisper of dissent went unnoticed. Whether it was a noble plotting rebellion or a merchant spreading rumors, the agents in rebus were always watching, always listening. One of their most critical roles was suppressing dissent. In an empire as vast and diverse as Byzantium, maintaining order was no small feat. The secret police employed a variety of tactics to keep the population in line, from discreetly removing troublemakers to spreading disinformation to sow confusion among potential rebels. They were experts at identifying and neutralizing threats before they could escalate, often using fear as their most effective weapon. The mere presence of these agents was enough to discourage rebellion, as no one could be sure who might be working for them. But their work wasn't limited to internal affairs. The agents in Rebus also played a key role in foreign espionage. They infiltrated rival empires, gathering intelligence on military movements, political alliances, and even the personal lives of foreign leaders. This information was invaluable to the Byzantine emperors, who used it to outmaneuver their enemies and secure their borders. In one notable operation, agents posing as merchants uncovered a plot by a neighboring kingdom to invade Byzantine territory, allowing the emperor to prepare a counterattack that saved the empire from disaster. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the agents in Rebus was their ability to operate without detection. They blended seamlessly into society, adopting disguises and false identities to carry out their missions. Some posed as traders, others as travelers, and a few even infiltrated the clergy. Their ability to move undetected made them a constant, invisible threat, a reminder that the emperor's reach extended far beyond the palace walls. The agents in Rebus were more than just enforcers. They were a symbol of the emperor's absolute authority. Their existence sent a clear message: no one was beyond the reach of the empire's power. Through their covert operations, they ensured that the emperor's grip on the throne remained unshakable, even in the face of internal and external threats. And as we'll see next, this culture of secrecy extended even further into the rituals and ceremonies that defined life in the Byzantine court. But for now, let's turn our attention to another fascinating practice: the ceremony of proskyneses, where courtiers bowed before the emperor in a display of absolute loyalty. Now, let's step into the grand halls of the Byzantine court, where power and submission were on full display in one of its most striking rituals, the ceremony of proskyneses. This practice, deeply rooted in the empire's traditions, was far more than a simple act of bowing. It was a powerful symbol of loyalty, hierarchy, and the emperor's divine authority. The origins of proskyneses can be traced back to ancient Persian customs, where subjects would prostrate themselves before their rulers as a sign of absolute reverence. The Byzantines adopted and adapted this ritual, infusing it with their own religious and political significance. In the Byzantine court, proskyneses was not just a gesture. It was a carefully choreographed performance that reinforced the emperor's position as God's chosen representative on earth. Every movement, every word spoken during the ceremony was designed to remind courtiers of their place in the empire's rigid hierarchy. Imagine the scene: a vast, opulent throne room filled with the empire's most powerful figures. As the emperor entered, the courtiers would drop to their knees, pressing their foreheads to the ground in a gesture of complete submission. This act of prostration was more than a physical display, it was a psychological one. By lowering themselves before the emperor, courtiers acknowledged not only his political power but also his divine right to rule. The ritual was a constant reminder that the emperor's authority was absolute, unchallengeable, and ordained by God. But the psychological impact of proskyneses went even deeper. For the courtiers, this act of submission was both humbling and humiliating. It stripped away any sense of personal pride or autonomy, reducing them to mere subjects in the presence of their sovereign. At the same time, it reinforced their dependence on the emperor's favor. Those who performed the ritual with sincerity and grace might earn his goodwill, while those who hesitated or resisted risked falling out of favor or worse. This ceremony also served as a tool of control. By requiring courtiers to perform proskyneses, the emperor ensured their loyalty and obedience. It was a public display of allegiance witnessed by all, leaving no room for doubt or dissent. In a court rife with intrigue and ambition, this ritual was a way to keep even the most powerful nobles in check, reminding them that their status and influence were ultimately derived from the emperor's grace. Yet, proskyneses was not just about power and control, it was also about spectacle. The grandeur of the ceremony, with its elaborate costumes, music, and choreography, was designed to awe both participants and observers. It was a theatrical display of the empire's might, a reminder to foreign dignitaries and domestic subjects alike of the emperor's unmatched authority. As we move forward, we'll uncover another layer of the Byzantine court's mysterious practices, where power and intrigue took on even more dramatic forms. But for now, the ceremony of proskynesis stands as a testament to the empire's ability to turn even the simplest act into a profound statement of authority and loyalty. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most chilling aspects of Byzantine history, the mysterious deaths of its emperors. In a court where power was everything, the line between ruler and target was often perilously thin. Many Byzantine emperors met untimely and suspicious ends, their deaths shrouded in intrigue, conspiracy, and whispers of foul play. These weren't just random acts of violence, they were calculated moves in a high-stakes game of power where the throne itself was the ultimate prize. Take, for example, the case of Emperor Justinian II, known as Rhinat Mitos, or the Slit-Nosed. After being overthrown and exiled, he miraculously returned to power only to meet a gruesome end. His enemies, fearing his vengeance, stormed the palace and executed him, decapitating him as a final act of humiliation. His death wasn't just about removing a ruler, it was a message to anyone who dared challenge the new regime. The brutality of his demise underscored the ruthless nature of Byzantine politics, where survival often depended on eliminating rivals before they could strike first. Then there's the infamous death of Emperor Romanos III, whose reign ended abruptly under suspicious circumstances. Officially, his death was attributed to drowning during a bath, but many historians believe he was poisoned. His wife, Empress Zoe, was rumored to have orchestrated his murder to clear the way for her lover, Michael IV, to take the throne. This scandalous twist highlights how personal ambition and courtly intrigue could intertwine, turning even the most intimate relationships into deadly power struggles. Another striking example is the fate of Emperor Nikephoros II, known as Phocas. A brilliant military leader, he was betrayed by his own wife, Theophano, who conspired with her lover, John Tzimiskes, to have him assassinated. The conspirators broke into the palace at night, brutally murdering Nikephoros in his bedchamber. His death wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a stark reminder of how loyalty in the Byzantine court could be bought, sold, or shattered in an instant. These deaths weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a broader pattern of political violence that defined the Byzantine Empire. Assassination, poisoning, and betrayal were tools of the trade, wielded by those who sought to seize or maintain power. The throne was a dangerous place, and emperors often ruled with one eye over their shoulder, knowing that their closest allies could become their deadliest enemies. But why were these deaths so common? The answer lies in the very structure of Byzantine politics. The empire's rigid hierarchy and immense wealth made the throne a prize worth killing for. At the same time, the lack of clear succession laws created a breeding ground for instability. Without a formal system to determine who would rule next, power struggles were inevitable, and violence became a means to an end. As we peel back the layers of these mysterious deaths, we see more than just tales of murder and betrayal. We see a reflection of the Byzantine court's cutthroat nature, where power was both a blessing and a curse. Each death tells a story of ambition, fear, and the lengths to which people would go to claim or keep the throne. Next, we'll explore another fascinating aspect of Byzantine intrigue, where power and mystery took on even more dramatic forms. But for now, the mysterious deaths of these emperors serve as a chilling reminder of the high stakes of life and death in the Byzantine court. Now, let's step into a world where power was not just demonstrated through politics or warfare, but also through the awe-inspiring presence of exotic creatures. The Byzantine emperors had a unique fascination with animals, and their imperial menagerie was more than just a collection of beasts. It was a symbol of their dominance, wealth, and connection to the wider world. These animals, often brought from distant lands, were not merely for show. They played a crucial role in the rituals and ceremonies of the court, serving as living emblems of the emperor's authority. Imagine the scene: foreign dignitaries arriving at the Byzantine court, greeted by the sight of lions, elephants, and even giraffes, creatures they had only heard of in legends. These animals were more than curiosities, they were strategic tools. By showcasing such rare and magnificent beasts, the emperors demonstrated their reach and influence, proving that their power extended far beyond the borders of their empire. It was a way of saying, "We command not only people but the wonders of the earth itself." One of the most famous examples of this practice was the use of elephants in imperial processions. These towering creatures, draped in ornate fabrics and adorned with jewels, were paraded through the streets of Constantinople during grand celebrations. Their sheer size and majesty left onlookers in awe, reinforcing the emperor's image as a ruler of unparalleled grandeur. Elephants, in particular, were seen as symbols of strength and stability, qualities that the emperors sought to embody. But the menagerie wasn't just about spectacle, it also had a deeper symbolic meaning. Many of these animals were associated with specific virtues or divine connections. Lions, for instance, were often linked to courage and royalty, while peacocks symbolized immortality and the divine. By incorporating these creatures into court rituals, the emperors subtly communicated their own divine right to rule, aligning themselves with the sacred and the extraordinary. The menagerie also served as a diplomatic tool. When foreign envoys visited the Byzantine court, they were often treated to private viewings of these exotic animals. This wasn't just entertainment, it was a calculated move to impress and intimidate. By displaying creatures that were rare or even unknown in their visitors' homelands, the emperors showcased their empire's wealth, sophistication, and global connections. It was a way of asserting dominance without uttering a single word. Yet, maintaining such a menagerie was no small feat. These animals required specialized care, and their transportation from distant regions was a logistical challenge. The effort and expense involved only added to their symbolic value, further emphasizing the emperor's ability to command resources on an unprecedented scale. As we reflect on the imperial menagerie, we see more than just a collection of animals. We see a carefully crafted display of power designed to inspire awe, reinforce authority, and project the empire's might to both its subjects and its rivals. These creatures were not just part of the court, they were part of the emperor's story, a living testament to the grandeur and mystery of the Byzantine Empire. Next, we'll uncover another layer of Byzantine intrigue, where knowledge and secrecy intertwined in ways that shaped the empire's intellectual and political life. But for now, the imperial menagerie stands as a vivid reminder of how the Byzantine emperors used every tool at their disposal, even the animal kingdom, to cement their legacy. Now, let's step away from the grandeur of the imperial menagerie and into the shadowy corridors of the Byzantine court, where knowledge was both a treasure and a weapon. Hidden within the palace walls lay some of the most guarded secrets of the empire, the hidden libraries. These were not ordinary collections of books. They were repositories of rare manuscripts, ancient texts, and forbidden knowledge, carefully curated and fiercely protected. The contents of these libraries were as diverse as they were mysterious. Alongside religious texts and philosophical works, there were scrolls on alchemy, astrology, and even military strategy. Some of these documents were so controversial or powerful that they were kept under lock and key, accessible only to a select few. The libraries were not just places of learning, they were vaults of power, holding the intellectual keys to the empire's survival and dominance. The keepers of these libraries were no ordinary scholars. Often, they were trusted eunuchs or high-ranking officials who had proven their loyalty to the emperor. These individuals were not only responsible for preserving the texts but also for interpreting them. Their role was crucial as they provided the emperor with insights and advice drawn from the wisdom of the ages. In a court rife with intrigue, these keepers were among the most influential figures, wielding knowledge as a form of quiet authority. but the influence of the hidden libraries extended far beyond the palace walls. The knowledge stored within them shaped the intellectual and political life of the empire. Scholars and theologians would sometimes be granted access to study these texts, and their interpretations often influenced religious doctrine and imperial policy. In this way, the libraries became a bridge between the past and the present, connecting the wisdom of antiquity with the challenges of the Byzantine world. One of the most fascinating aspects of these libraries was their role in diplomacy. When foreign envoys or scholars visited the Byzantine court, they were sometimes allowed to glimpse the treasures within. This was not an act of generosity but a calculated move. By showcasing their intellectual wealth, the Byzantines demonstrated their cultural superiority and reinforced their image as the heirs of ancient wisdom. It was a subtle yet powerful way of asserting dominance in the realm of ideas. Yet, the libraries were also a source of danger. Forbidden knowledge, if misused, could destabilize the empire. There were whispers of texts that contained secrets capable of toppling rulers or inciting rebellion. This is why access was so tightly controlled, and why the keepers of the libraries were chosen with such care. In the Byzantine court, knowledge was not just power, it was a double-edged sword. As we explore the hidden libraries, we see a world where intellect and intrigue were deeply intertwined. These repositories of wisdom were more than just collections of books. They were instruments of power, shaping the course of the empire in ways both seen and unseen. The next time you think of the Byzantine court, remember that its mysteries were not confined to its rituals or its menagerie. They were also hidden in the pages of its most guarded texts. Now, let's turn our attention to another enigmatic practice of the Byzantine court, where the sacred and the political converged in a ritual that defined the emperor's divine authority. But for now, the hidden libraries stand as a testament to the empire's belief that knowledge, when wielded wisely, could be as formidable as any army. Now, let's shift our gaze from the shadowy depths of the hidden libraries to the radiant splendor of the Byzantine coronation rituals, where the divine and the earthly converged in a spectacle of power and piety. The ritual of the crown was not merely a ceremony. It was a profound statement of the emperor's divine right to rule, a moment where the sacred and the political became one. At the heart of this ritual was the crown itself, a symbol of unparalleled significance. Crafted with exquisite care, the Byzantine crown was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a manifestation of the emperor's connection to God. Adorned with precious gems and intricate designs, it represented the heavens themselves, a tangible link between the ruler and the divine. The act of placing the crown on the emperor's head was not just a formality, it was a sacred act believed to be guided by the hand of God. The coronation ceremony was a meticulously orchestrated event, steeped in tradition and symbolism. It often took place in the Grand Hagia Sophia, the spiritual heart of the empire, where the emperor would be surrounded by clergy, courtiers, and foreign dignitaries. The air would be thick with incense, the walls echoing with chants and prayers as the Patriarch of Constantinople performed the ritual. Every gesture, every word was laden with meaning, designed to reinforce the emperor's legitimacy and divine favor. One of the most striking elements of the ceremony was the anointing of the emperor. This act, borrowed from biblical traditions, signified the emperor's consecration as God's chosen ruler. The Patriarch would anoint the emperor with holy oil, a gesture that transformed him from a mortal man into a sacred figure, a mediator between heaven and earth. This moment was not just symbolic. It was believed to imbue the emperor with divine grace, making his rule both unassailable and eternal. The placement of the crown was the climax of the ritual, a moment of profound significance. As the crown was lowered onto the emperor's head, the assembled crowd would erupt in acclamations, declaring their loyalty and submission. This act was not just about the transfer of power, it was about the creation of a sacred bond between the emperor and his people. The crown, now resting on his head, was a constant reminder of his divine mandate, a symbol of his duty to rule justly and protect the empire. But the ritual of the crown was not just about the emperor, it was also about the empire itself. The ceremony reinforced the idea that Byzantium was not just a political entity but a holy one, a kingdom ordained by God. By participating in the ritual, the people of the empire reaffirmed their place in this divine order, bound together by their shared faith and loyalty to the emperor. In the end, the ritual of the crown was more than just a coronation. It was a reaffirmation of the Byzantine worldview, where the sacred and the secular were inseparable. It was a reminder that the emperor's power came not from the sword or the senate, but from the heavens themselves. And as we reflect on this practice, we see how the Byzantines used ritual not just to legitimize their rulers, but to weave a tapestry of faith, power, and identity that defined their empire for centuries. Now, let's turn our attention to another mysterious practice of the Byzantine court, where the stars themselves were believed to hold the keys to the empire's destiny. But for now, the ritual of the crown stands as a testament to the enduring power of ceremony in shaping the course of history. Now, as we step away from the sacred rituals of the crown, let's journey into the celestial realm, where the stars themselves were believed to guide the fate of the Byzantine Empire. The 11th mysterious practice of the Byzantine court takes us into the world of astrology, a discipline that held immense sway over the decisions of emperors and the direction of the empire itself. For the Byzantines, the heavens were not just a source of wonder, they were a map, a guide, and sometimes a warning. Astrology was deeply woven into the fabric of Byzantine life, and nowhere was its influence more pronounced than in the imperial court. Emperors who saw themselves as God's chosen rulers also believed that the movements of the stars and planets held divine messages meant specifically for them. Astrologers, often highly respected scholars, were regular fixtures in the court, consulted on matters ranging from military campaigns to personal health. Their interpretations of celestial events could shape the empire's policies, determine the timing of battles, and even influence the choice of an emperor's successor. One of the most fascinating aspects of Byzantine astrology was its role in political strategy. Emperors would often delay or accelerate major decisions based on the advice of their astrologers. For example, if a comet appeared in the night sky, it might be interpreted as a sign of impending disaster, prompting the emperor to postpone a planned invasion or delay a public announcement. Conversely, a favorable alignment of planets could be seen as a divine endorsement, emboldening the emperor to take bold action. In this way, the stars became silent advisors, their movements dictating the rhythm of imperial power. The influence of astrology extended beyond the emperor's personal decisions. It also played a role in shaping the empire's public image. Celestial omens were often used to legitimize an emperor's rule or to undermine his rivals. If an astrologer declared that a particular celestial event foretold the rise of a great leader, it could be used to bolster the emperor's claim to the throne. On the other hand, unfavorable omens could be exploited to sow doubt about a rival's legitimacy. In this way, astrology became a tool of propaganda, its mysteries wielded to maintain the delicate balance of power. But the use of astrology was not without its controversies. While some emperors embraced it wholeheartedly, others viewed it with suspicion, fearing that it could be used to manipulate or undermine their authority. There were instances where astrologers were accused of treason, their predictions seen as threats to the stability of the empire. Yet, despite these risks, astrology remained a powerful force in the Byzantine court, its influence enduring for centuries. The Byzantines' reliance on astrology reveals a fascinating intersection of faith, science, and politics. It shows us a world where the heavens were not just a distant mystery, but an active participant in the affairs of men. And as we reflect on this practice, we see how the stars, in their silent dance, shaped the destiny of one of history's most enigmatic empires. With the celestial mysteries of astrology behind us, let's now turn our attention to another intriguing aspect of Byzantine court life, where whispers and gestures carried hidden meanings in the labyrinth of imperial politics. Now, as we leave the celestial realm of astrology behind, let's step into the shadowy corridors of the Byzantine court, where whispers and subtle gestures spoke louder than words. The 12th mysterious practice takes us into the world of the secret language of courtiers, a complex system of coded communication that allowed them to navigate the perilous waters of imperial politics. In a court where trust was rare and betrayal lurked around every corner, this hidden language became a lifeline for those who knew how to use it. The Byzantine court was a place of intrigue, where alliances shifted like sand and loyalty was often a matter of convenience. To survive, courtiers developed a sophisticated system of coded language and gestures, allowing them to exchange information without drawing suspicion. This secret communication took many forms, from subtle hand signals to carefully chosen words that carried double meanings. A raised eyebrow, a particular way of holding a cup, or even the choice of a specific flower in a bouquet could convey messages that only the initiated could understand. One of the most fascinating aspects of this secret language was its adaptability. Courtiers constantly refined their codes to stay ahead of their rivals, ensuring that their messages remained undetected. For example, a seemingly innocent conversation about the weather might actually be a discussion about a rival's plans, with each word carefully chosen to mask its true meaning. This linguistic dance required not only intelligence but also a deep understanding of the court's ever-shifting dynamics. The use of this secret language extended beyond mere survival. It was also a tool for gaining power and influence. Courtiers who mastered the art of coded communication could forge alliances, spread rumors, or even manipulate the emperor himself. A well-timed whisper or a carefully placed gesture could sway decisions, alter fates, and change the course of history. In this way, the secret language of courtiers became a weapon as potent as any sword or shield. But mastering this language was no easy feat. It required years of observation, practice, and a keen sense of intuition. Those who succeeded were often the most trusted advisors, their ability to navigate the court's treacherous politics making them indispensable. Yet, even the most skilled courtiers were not immune to the dangers of their craft. A single misstep, a misunderstood gesture, or a poorly chosen word could lead to disaster, exposing their secrets and sealing their fate. The secret language of courtiers offers us a glimpse into the Byzantine court's intricate web of power and deception. It reminds us that in a world where trust was scarce, communication itself became a battlefield, and those who mastered its nuances held the keys to survival. As we reflect on this practice, we see how the unspoken words and hidden gestures of the courtiers shaped the destiny of an empire, one whisper at a time. With the mysteries of coded communication behind us, let's now turn our attention to another captivating aspect of Byzantine court life, where opulence and hidden meanings came together in the grandest of settings. Now, let's step into the grand halls of the Byzantine court, where the air was thick with the aroma of exotic spices and the clinking of golden goblets echoed through the corridors. The 13th mysterious practice takes us into the world of the imperial feasts, events of unparalleled opulence that were far more than just meals. They were carefully orchestrated displays of power, wealth, and political strategy. These feasts were not merely about indulgence, they were a stage where the emperor's authority was showcased, alliances were forged, and rivals were subtly reminded of their place. The Byzantine feasts were a sensory spectacle designed to overwhelm and impress. Tables groaned under the weight of lavish dishes, from roasted peacocks adorned with their own feathers to exotic delicacies imported from distant lands. Each course was a masterpiece, not just in taste but in presentation, with dishes arranged to resemble scenes from mythology or symbols of imperial power. The sheer abundance of food was a statement in itself, a reminder of the empire's vast resources and the emperor's ability to command them. But these feasts were more than just displays of wealth. They were also laden with hidden meanings. Every dish, every ingredient, and even the order in which they were served carried symbolic significance. For example, the use of rare spices like saffron and cinnamon was not just about flavor. It was a demonstration of the empire's far-reaching trade networks and its dominance over foreign markets. Similarly, the inclusion of certain meats or fruits could carry political messages, subtly reinforcing alliances or asserting dominance over visiting dignitaries. The seating arrangements at these feasts were equally strategic. Guests were placed according to their rank and favor with the emperor, a visual representation of the court's hierarchy. Those seated closest to the emperor were not only honored but also reminded of their dependence on his goodwill. Meanwhile, those placed further away were subtly signaled about their precarious position in the court's power structure. Even the act of serving food was a carefully choreographed ritual, with servants moving in precise patterns that underscored the emperor's control over every aspect of court life. Music, dance, and theatrical performances often accompanied these feasts, adding another layer of meaning to the proceedings. These entertainments were not just for amusement, they were carefully chosen to reflect the emperor's virtues such as wisdom, strength, or piety. A performance depicting a victorious battle, for example, might serve as a reminder of the emperor's military prowess, while a dance inspired by ancient myths could emphasize his divine right to rule. The imperial feasts were also a tool for diplomacy. Foreign ambassadors and visiting dignitaries were frequently invited to these events where they were treated to the empire's finest offerings. The goal was not just to impress but to intimidate, showcasing the empire's wealth and sophistication as a way to assert dominance and discourage rebellion. At the same time, these feasts provided an opportunity for the emperor to gauge the loyalty of his guests, observing their reactions and interactions for signs of dissent or ambition. Yet for all their grandeur, these feasts were not without risk. The very opulence that made them so impressive could also breed resentment among those who felt excluded or overlooked. Rival factions within the court might use these gatherings to plot and scheme, turning the emperor's display of power into a potential vulnerability. Even the most carefully planned feast could become a stage for intrigue, where the stakes were as high as the tables were laden. The imperial feasts of the Byzantine court remind us that even the most extravagant celebrations were never just about food or entertainment. They were a reflection of the empire's power, a carefully crafted narrative designed to awe, intimidate, and control. As we leave the splendor of these feasts behind, let's turn our attention to another fascinating aspect of Byzantine court life, where diplomacy and secrecy intertwined in the hands of the empire's most trusted servants. Now, as we move from the grandeur of imperial feasts to the shadowy corridors of diplomacy, we uncover another layer of Byzantine intrigue. The 14th mysterious practice takes us into the world of the court eunuchs, who played a surprisingly pivotal role in the empire's diplomatic efforts. These trusted servants, often overlooked in history, were far more than mere attendants. They were key players in the Byzantine court's intricate web of alliances and rivalries. Eunuchs held a unique position in the Byzantine court, one that made them ideal for diplomatic missions. Stripped of the ability to produce heirs, they were seen as less likely to harbor personal ambitions or form rival dynasties. This perceived neutrality made them trustworthy intermediaries, capable of carrying sensitive messages and negotiating delicate treaties without the suspicion that might follow other court officials. Their loyalty to the emperor was unquestioned, and their access to the inner workings of the court gave them unparalleled insight into the empire's strategies and secrets. One of the most significant advantages of using eunuchs as diplomats was their ability to navigate the complex social hierarchies of foreign courts. Unlike other envoys who might be seen as threats or rivals, eunuchs were often welcomed as neutral parties. Their presence did not provoke the same level of suspicion or hostility, allowing them to move more freely and gather intelligence without drawing undue attention. This made them invaluable in negotiations, where their ability to read the room and adapt their approach often led to successful outcomes. The secrets they carried between empires were as varied as they were critical. From trade agreements to military alliances, eunuchs were entrusted with some of the most sensitive information in the Byzantine world. They were often sent to negotiate with rival powers, using their charm and wit to secure favorable terms for the empire. In some cases, they even acted as spies, gathering intelligence on enemy plans and reporting back to the emperor. Their ability to blend into the background while observing every detail made them uniquely suited to this dual role of diplomat and informant. But their role was not without its challenges. The very qualities that made eunuchs effective diplomats also made them targets. Rival factions within foreign courts often sought to exploit their perceived vulnerability, attempting to bribe or coerce them into revealing Byzantine secrets. Despite these risks, eunuchs remained steadfast in their loyalty, often going to great lengths to protect the empire's interests. Their ability to withstand such pressures speaks to their resilience and the deep trust placed in them by the Byzantine emperors. The use of eunuchs in diplomacy also highlights the Byzantine court's innovative approach to statecraft. By leveraging the unique strengths of these individuals, the empire was able to maintain its influence and navigate the treacherous waters of international politics. Their contributions, though often overlooked, were instrumental in shaping the course of Byzantine history. As we leave the world of diplomatic intrigue behind, we turn our attention to another fascinating aspect of Byzantine court life, where the sacred and the mysterious intertwine in the veneration of relics. These objects, believed to hold divine power, played a crucial role in legitimizing the emperor's rule and shaping the spiritual landscape of the empire. Now, as we step into the realm of the sacred and the supernatural, we encounter the 15th mysterious practice of the Byzantine court, the veneration of religious relics. These objects, believed to hold divine power, were more than just symbols of faith. They were tools of political legitimacy and spiritual authority, deeply intertwined with the empire's identity and the emperor's claim to divine favor. The Byzantine emperors went to great lengths to acquire these relics, often through elaborate means. Some were brought back from distant lands by returning crusaders, while others were obtained through diplomatic negotiations or even outright theft. Among the most prized relics were fragments of the true cross, believed to be from the crucifixion of Jesus, and the bones of saints, thought to possess miraculous powers. These sacred objects were not merely collected, they were enshrined in grand ceremonies, housed in ornate reliquaries, and displayed as tangible proof of the emperor's connection to the divine. The supposed powers of these relics were central to their veneration. It was believed that they could heal the sick, protect the empire from invaders, and even influence the outcome of battles. Stories of miracles attributed to these relics spread far and wide, reinforcing their importance in the eyes of both the court and the common people. For the emperor, possessing such relics was a way to demonstrate his role as God's chosen ruler, a living link between heaven and earth. The more relics he controlled, the more his authority was seen as divinely sanctioned. But the veneration of relics was not just about faith, it was also a powerful political tool. By showcasing these sacred objects in public ceremonies, the emperor could rally the people's loyalty and reinforce his position as the protector of both the empire and its spiritual heritage. Relics were often paraded through the streets during times of crisis, their presence meant to inspire hope and unity. In this way, they became symbols of the empire's resilience and the emperor's unwavering connection to the divine. The role of relics in legitimizing the emperor's rule cannot be overstated. They were used to justify his authority, not just to his subjects but also to rival powers. When foreign dignitaries visited the Byzantine court, they were often shown these sacred treasures as a reminder of the empire's spiritual and political might. The relics served as a silent yet potent message. the emperor's power was not merely earthly but divinely ordained, and any challenge to his rule was a challenge to God himself. As we reflect on the significance of these mysterious relics, we begin to see how they shaped the spiritual and political landscape of the Byzantine Empire. They were more than objects of devotion. They were instruments of power carefully curated and displayed to uphold the emperor's divine right to rule. And now, as we move forward, we turn our attention to the hidden resting places of these emperors, where the mysteries of life and death intertwine in the imperial crypts. Now, as we descend into the shadows of history, we uncover the 16th mysterious practice of the Byzantine Court, the secret burial practices of its emperors. The imperial crypts, hidden away from the public eye, were more than just resting places for the dead. They were sanctuaries of power, mystery, and myth, where the line between the mortal and the divine blurred. The locations of these crypts were carefully chosen, often within the most sacred and secure parts of the empire. Some were nestled beneath grand churches, like the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, while others were concealed in remote monasteries or fortified palaces. These sites were not merely tombs, they were symbols of the emperor's eternal connection to the divine, designed to inspire awe and reverence long after their deaths. The rituals surrounding the burials of Byzantine emperors were as elaborate as they were secretive. The process was steeped in tradition, with every detail meticulously planned to reflect the emperor's divine status. The body would be prepared with rare spices and perfumes, wrapped in luxurious fabrics, and placed in a sarcophagus adorned with gold and precious gems. The funeral itself was a grand spectacle, attended only by the highest-ranking officials and clergy, who performed sacred rites to ensure the emperor's safe passage to the afterlife. These ceremonies were not just about honoring the dead, they were about reinforcing the emperor's legacy and the empire's continuity. But the secrecy surrounding these burials gave rise to countless myths and legends. Stories spread of hidden treasures buried alongside the emperors, of curses placed on those who dared disturb their rest, and of supernatural guardians protecting the crypts. Some believed that the spirits of the emperors still watched over their tombs, intervening in the affairs of the living to protect the empire. These tales, whether true or not, added to the mystique of the imperial crypts, turning them into places of both fear and fascination. The myths surrounding the crypts also served a political purpose. By shrouding the burials in mystery, the Byzantine court reinforced the idea that the emperor's power transcended death. The crypts became symbols of the empire's enduring strength, a reminder that even in death, the emperor's authority remained unbroken. For the people, these stories were a source of comfort and pride, a way to connect with the divine through the memory of their rulers. As we explore these hidden resting places, we begin to understand how the Byzantine emperors used their burials to cement their legacy. The crypts were not just tombs, they were monuments to power, designed to inspire awe and loyalty for generations to come. And now, as we move forward, we turn our attention to another shadowy aspect of the Byzantine court, the infamous use of poison as a tool of political intrigue. Now, as we step into the darker corridors of Byzantine history, we encounter a practice that has become synonymous with intrigue and betrayal: the use of poison. Poison was not just a weapon in the Byzantine court, it was an art form, a silent and deadly tool wielded with precision to eliminate rivals, secure power, and shape the empire's destiny. This 17th practice reveals a world where trust was a luxury, and survival often depended on vigilance. One of the most infamous cases of poisoning in Byzantine history involves Emperor Romanos II, whose sudden death in the year 963 sparked whispers of foul play. Romanos, a young and seemingly healthy ruler, died under mysterious circumstances, and many suspected his wife, Theophano, of orchestrating his demise. Theophano, a woman of ambition and cunning, was rumored to have used a slow-acting poison to avoid suspicion, ensuring her rise to power through her marriage to the next emperor, Nikephoros II. This case highlights how poison was not just a means of elimination but a strategic tool to navigate the treacherous waters of court politics. The methods of poisoning in the Byzantine court were as varied as they were ingenious. Poisons were often derived from natural sources such as deadly nightshade, hemlock, or aconite, and were administered in ways that made detection nearly impossible. A favorite tactic was to lace food or drink with a tasteless, odorless toxin, ensuring the victim consumed it without suspicion. Some poisons were designed to act quickly, while others were slow and insidious, mimicking natural illnesses to avoid raising alarms. The court's physicians, often complicit in these schemes, played a dual role as both healers and enablers of death. Poison also became a symbol of the Byzantine court's cutthroat nature. It was not just a tool for eliminating enemies, but a psychological weapon that instilled fear and paranoia. Courtiers lived in constant dread of being poisoned, and elaborate rituals were developed to test food and drink for toxins. The emperor himself was not immune to this fear, as even the most powerful rulers could fall victim to a well-placed dose of poison. This atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust became a defining feature of Byzantine politics, where loyalty was fleeting and betrayal was always a possibility. The use of poison also had a profound impact on the empire's history. It shaped alliances, toppled dynasties, and altered the course of events in ways that rippled through the centuries. For example, the poisoning of Emperor John I Tzimiskes in the year 976 left the empire in a precarious position, leading to a power struggle that destabilized the region. These incidents remind us that poison was not just a personal weapon but a political one, capable of reshaping the fate of an empire. As we reflect on this dark chapter of Byzantine history, we see how poison became more than just a means of murder. It was a reflection of the court's ruthless ambition and the lengths to which individuals would go to secure power. And now, as we move forward, we turn our attention to another enigmatic practice, the ritual of the sacred fire, a ceremony that illuminated the Byzantine court's spiritual and symbolic power. Shifting our focus from the shadows of poison to the light of ceremony, we now explore the ritual of the sacred fire, a practice that illuminated the Byzantine court with both literal and symbolic brilliance. This ritual, steeped in mysticism and grandeur, was not merely a spectacle but a powerful tool to reinforce the emperor's divine authority and unify the court under a shared sense of awe and reverence. The origins of the sacred fire ritual are shrouded in mystery, with some historians tracing its roots to ancient pagan traditions that celebrated light as a symbol of life and divine power. Over time, the Byzantines adapted these practices, infusing them with Christian symbolism to align with their faith. The sacred fire became a manifestation of God's presence, a tangible connection between the heavens and the earthly realm, with the emperor at its center as the chosen intermediary. The ceremony itself was a breathtaking display of pageantry and precision. It typically took place in the grand halls of the great palace, where the emperor, adorned in resplendent robes, would ignite a sacred flame. This flame, often kindled using rare and precious materials, was said to burn with an otherworldly intensity, casting a golden glow over the assembled courtiers. The ritual was accompanied by chants, prayers, and the solemn music of the court's musicians, creating an atmosphere of profound spirituality and reverence. Symbolically, the sacred fire represented the emperor's divine right to rule. It was believed that the flame's purity and endurance mirrored the emperor's own virtues, strength, wisdom, and an unbreakable connection to the divine. By presiding over this ritual, the emperor demonstrated his role as both a spiritual and political leader, a figure chosen by God to guide the empire. This symbolism was not lost on the courtiers, who viewed the ceremony as a reaffirmation of their loyalty and submission to the emperor's authority. Beyond its symbolic meaning, the sacred fire also served a practical purpose. It was a tool of psychological influence designed to inspire awe and devotion among those who witnessed it. The ritual's grandeur and mysticism left a lasting impression, reinforcing the idea that the emperor's power was not merely human but divinely ordained. This sense of awe was crucial in maintaining order and loyalty within the court, where ambition and intrigue often threatened to destabilize the empire. The sacred fire ritual also had a unifying effect, bringing together the diverse factions of the Byzantine court under a shared experience of wonder and reverence. In a world where political alliances were fragile and trust was scarce, the ceremony provided a rare moment of collective purpose and spiritual connection. It reminded the courtiers of their shared identity as subjects of a divinely chosen ruler, fostering a sense of unity that transcended personal rivalries. As we reflect on the ritual of the sacred fire, we see how it encapsulated the Byzantine court's unique blend of spirituality, symbolism, and political strategy. It was more than just a ceremony, it was a carefully crafted performance that reinforced the emperor's authority, inspired loyalty, and reminded all who witnessed it of the divine order that governed their world. And now, as we move forward, we turn our attention to another secretive practice, the clandestine marriages arranged within the Byzantine court, where love and politics often intertwined in unexpected ways. Now, let's step into the shadowy corridors of the Byzantine court, where love and politics often collided in the form of secret marriages. These unions, far from being simple matters of the heart, were carefully orchestrated tools of diplomacy and power. In a world where alliances could make or break empires, marriage became a strategic weapon wielded with precision by the emperor and his advisors. The Byzantine court was a place where personal relationships were rarely just personal. Marriages were arranged not for romance but for political gain, often kept secret to avoid alerting rivals or destabilizing delicate alliances. These clandestine unions were a way to bind powerful families, foreign rulers, or influential factions to the emperor's cause. By marrying into a rival family or a neighboring kingdom, the emperor could secure peace, gain access to resources, or even neutralize a potential threat. One of the most fascinating aspects of these secret marriages was the level of secrecy surrounding them. Unlike the grand, public weddings that celebrated imperial unions, these ceremonies were often conducted in private, with only a handful of trusted individuals in attendance. The details of the marriage, its timing, location, and even the identities of the participants were closely guarded. This secrecy was essential to prevent interference from rival factions or foreign powers who might seek to undermine the alliance. The reasons for keeping these marriages hidden were as varied as the unions themselves. In some cases, the marriage was intended to secure a surprise advantage, such as a sudden military alliance or a covert trade agreement. In others, the secrecy was necessary to protect the reputation of the parties involved. For example, a Byzantine noble might marry a foreign princess in secret to avoid offending a rival kingdom or to prevent internal dissent among the courtiers. The role of the emperor in these arrangements cannot be overstated. As the ultimate authority in the empire, the emperor often acted as both matchmaker and enforcer, ensuring that the marriage served the empire's interests. He might broker a union between a trusted general and the daughter of a powerful ally, or arrange a marriage between his own relative and a foreign ruler to secure a lasting peace. These unions were not just about love or even loyalty. They were about survival in a world where power was constantly shifting. But what happened when these secret marriages were discovered? The consequences could be dramatic. A leaked marriage might spark outrage among rival factions, leading to plots, betrayals, or even open conflict. On the other hand, a well-timed revelation could strengthen the emperor's position, demonstrating his ability to outmaneuver his enemies and secure powerful allies. The secrecy surrounding these unions was a double-edged sword, offering both protection and risk. As we peel back the layers of these hidden alliances, we see how the Byzantine court used marriage as a tool of statecraft. These unions were not just about forging bonds between individuals, they were about shaping the destiny of an empire. And as we continue our journey, we'll uncover yet another layer of intrigue, the solemn oaths taken by the Byzantine Imperial Guard, whose loyalty was as crucial to the emperor's survival as any secret marriage. Now, let's turn our attention to the unwavering loyalty of the Byzantine Imperial Guard, whose solemn oaths were the bedrock of their service to the emperor. These elite soldiers were not just protectors of the throne, they were bound by sacred promises that elevated their duty to a near-religious level. Their loyalty was not merely a matter of allegiance, it was a profound commitment that shaped the very fabric of the Byzantine court. The initiation of a new member into the Imperial Guard was a moment of great significance, marked by rituals steeped in tradition and symbolism. Before taking their oath, recruits underwent a series of ceremonies designed to test their resolve and dedication. These rituals often included symbolic acts, such as swearing on sacred relics or passing through a symbolic threshold, signifying their transition from ordinary soldiers to guardians of the empire. The oath itself was a solemn declaration, spoken in the presence of the emperor or his highest representatives, binding the guard to a lifetime of service and sacrifice. The content of the oath was as much about loyalty as it was about identity. Members of the Imperial Guard pledged not only to protect the emperor's life, but also to uphold the integrity of the empire itself. They vowed to defend the throne against all threats, whether from within the court or beyond its walls. This oath was not taken lightly. It was a sacred promise that carried the weight of divine authority, reinforcing the belief that the emperor's rule was ordained by God. The role of the Imperial Guard extended far beyond mere protection. They were the emperor's eyes and ears, tasked with maintaining order within the palace and ensuring the loyalty of those around him. Their presence was a constant reminder of the emperor's power, and their unwavering devotion served as a deterrent to would-be conspirators. In times of crisis, the Imperial Guard often played a pivotal role in securing the throne, acting swiftly to suppress rebellions or eliminate threats. But what made the Imperial Guard so uniquely loyal? Part of the answer lies in the privileges they enjoyed. As members of this elite group, they were granted land, wealth, and status, ensuring their personal fortunes were tied to the emperor's success. Yet, their loyalty was not solely motivated by material gain. The rituals and oaths they underwent instilled a deep sense of duty and honor, creating a bond that transcended mere self-interest. The Imperial Guard's loyalty was not without its challenges, however. In a court rife with intrigue, even the most devoted guards were not immune to manipulation or betrayal. History records instances where members of the Guard were swayed by rival factions, leading to dramatic shifts in power. Yet, for the most part, the Imperial Guard remained a steadfast pillar of the Byzantine court, their oaths serving as a bulwark against the chaos that often threatened to engulf the empire. As we reflect on the solemn oaths of the Imperial Guard, we see how their loyalty was both a shield and a sword, protecting the emperor while reinforcing his authority. Their rituals and promises were not just formalities, they were the foundation of an institution that played a crucial role in the survival of the Byzantine Empire. And as we move forward, we'll uncover yet another layer of mystery, the hidden chambers and passageways within the Byzantine palace, where secrets were kept and power was wielded in the shadows. Now, let's step into the shadows of the Byzantine palace, where secrets were not just whispered but hidden within its very walls. The hidden chambers and passageways of the palace were more than architectural marvels. They were the lifeblood of intrigue and power in the Byzantine court. These concealed spaces served a multitude of purposes, from safeguarding treasures to enabling covert meetings that shaped the fate of the empire. Deep within the palace, secret chambers were designed to protect the empire's most valuable possessions. Gold, jewels, and sacred relics were stored in these hidden vaults, far from the prying eyes of invaders or even curious courtiers. These treasures were not just symbols of wealth, but also tools of diplomacy and power, used to secure alliances or reward loyalty. The locations of these chambers were known only to a select few, ensuring that the empire's riches remained secure even in times of turmoil. But the hidden chambers were not just for storing material wealth. They also served as sanctuaries for the emperor and his closest advisors during moments of crisis. In times of rebellion or invasion, these secret spaces provided a safe haven where plans could be devised away from the chaos of the court. The walls of these chambers bore witness to whispered strategies and urgent decisions that often determined the empire's survival. The passageways, on the other hand, were the arteries of intrigue. These narrow, concealed corridors allowed the emperor and his agents to move unseen through the palace, bypassing the watchful eyes of courtiers and guards. They facilitated covert meetings with spies, foreign envoys, or disgruntled nobles, enabling the emperor to gather intelligence or negotiate alliances without drawing attention. These passageways were a testament to the Byzantine court's mastery of secrecy, where even the walls seemed to conspire in the emperor's favor. One of the most fascinating aspects of these hidden spaces was their role in the court's elaborate rituals of power. Certain chambers were used for private ceremonies where the emperor would perform sacred rites or consult with astrologers and mystics. These rituals, conducted away from the public eye, reinforced the emperor's divine authority and added an air of mystery to his rule. The passageways, too, played a part in these ceremonies, allowing the emperor to appear suddenly in different parts of the palace, as if by magic, further enhancing his aura of omnipotence. Yet, the hidden chambers and passageways were not without their dangers. They could also be used against the emperor, as rival factions sought to exploit these secret spaces for their own gain. There are accounts of conspirators using the passageways to plot assassinations or smuggle weapons into the palace. The very secrecy that made these spaces so valuable also made them a double-edged sword, requiring constant vigilance to prevent their misuse. As we uncover the secrets of the Byzantine palace's hidden chambers and passageways, we gain a deeper understanding of how the empire's rulers wielded power. These spaces were not just physical structures but extensions of the emperor's will, designed to protect, deceive, and dominate. And as we continue our journey, we'll explore yet another enigmatic practice, the dramatic ritual of burning ships, a spectacle that symbolized the emperor's unyielding resolve and left a lasting impression on friends and foes alike. Now, let's set sail into one of the most dramatic and symbolic rituals of the Byzantine court, the ritual of the burning ships. This awe-inspiring spectacle was not just a display of power but a calculated act of psychological warfare, designed to leave a lasting impression on both allies and enemies. Picture this: the emperor standing before a fleet of ships, flames engulfing the vessels as they burn to ashes. It was a bold statement, one that declared the empire's unyielding resolve and willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. The origins of this ritual are shrouded in mystery, but historians believe it may have roots in ancient naval traditions. Some suggest it was inspired by the legendary burning of ships by commanders who sought to eliminate any possibility of retreat, forcing their armies to fight with unwavering determination. In the Byzantine context, the ritual took on a deeper meaning. It wasn't just about cutting off escape routes, it was about demonstrating the emperor's absolute commitment to his cause. By destroying these ships, the emperor sent a clear message: there was no turning back and victory was the only option. The psychological impact of this ritual cannot be overstated. For allies, it was a rallying cry, a powerful reminder of the emperor's dedication and the stakes at hand. It inspired loyalty and courage, urging soldiers and citizens alike to stand firm in the face of adversity. For enemies, however, it was a chilling warning. The sight of burning ships was a vivid symbol of the emperor's ruthlessness and his willingness to go to extreme lengths to achieve his goals. It was a calculated move to instill fear and doubt, weakening the resolve of those who dared to oppose the empire. The ritual was often performed during times of great crisis or before major military campaigns. It was a public spectacle designed to be witnessed by as many people as possible. The flames, the smoke, and the crackling of wood created a sensory experience that was impossible to ignore. It was a moment of theater where the emperor played the role of both leader and performer, using the burning ships as a stage to project his authority and determination. But the ritual of the burning ships was more than just a display of power. It was also a test of loyalty. Those who witnessed it were forced to confront their own commitment to the empire. Would they stand with the emperor, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, or would they falter, intimidated by the sheer audacity of the act? In this way, the ritual served as a unifying force, binding the empire together in a shared sense of purpose and resolve. As we reflect on this dramatic practice, it's clear that the burning of ships was more than just a symbolic gesture. It was a masterstroke of psychological manipulation, a tool wielded by the emperor to inspire, intimidate, and unite. And as we move forward, we'll uncover yet another layer of the Byzantine court's enigmatic practices, exploring the cryptic symbols and codes that permeated its art and architecture, revealing hidden messages known only to the initiated. Now, let's step into the shadowy world of cryptic symbols and codes, where the walls of the Byzantine court whispered secrets to those who could decipher them. Hidden within the intricate mosaics, frescoes, and architectural designs of the empire's palaces and churches were symbols that carried meanings far beyond their surface beauty. These cryptic elements were not mere decorations, they were a language of power, faith, and intrigue, understood only by the initiated. The Byzantine court was a place where every detail mattered and nothing was left to chance. Symbols like the double-headed eagle, the Cairo, and the labarum were more than just artistic motifs. They were statements of imperial authority and divine favor. The double-headed eagle, for instance, represented the empire's dominion over both East and West, a bold declaration of its universal reach. Meanwhile, the Cairo, a combination of the first two letters of Christ's name in Greek, served as a reminder of the emperor's role as God's chosen ruler on earth. These symbols were carefully woven into the fabric of the court, reinforcing the emperor's legitimacy and the empire's spiritual mission. But not all symbols were so overt. Some were deliberately obscure, designed to convey hidden messages to a select few. For example, certain patterns in the mosaics of the Hagia Sophia or the Palace of Constantinople contained coded references to political alliances, religious doctrines, or even warnings. These subtle designs required a keen eye and insider knowledge to interpret, making them a form of visual cryptography. To the uninitiated, they appeared as mere artistry, but to those in the know, they revealed layers of meaning that shaped the court's politics and culture. The use of cryptic symbols extended beyond art and into architecture. The layout of buildings, the placement of statues, and even the orientation of doorways often carried symbolic significance. For instance, the positioning of a throne room to face the rising sun might symbolize the emperor's connection to divine light, while hidden passageways within the palace could represent the labyrinthine nature of court intrigue. These architectural choices were not accidental. They were deliberate acts of communication designed to convey power, mystery, and control. This practice of embedding hidden meanings into art and architecture served multiple purposes. It reinforced the emperor's authority by creating an aura of divine mystery around his rule. It also acted as a form of political messaging, allowing the court to communicate sensitive information without risking exposure. And for those within the inner circle, it was a way to assert their status as insiders, privy to the secrets of the empire. As we peel back the layers of these cryptic symbols, we gain a deeper understanding of the Byzantine court's complexity. It was a world where every image, every line, and every angle carried meaning, where art and architecture became tools of power and persuasion. And as we move forward, we'll uncover yet another enigmatic practice of the Byzantine court, the secret trials where justice was dispensed behind closed doors far from the public eye. Now let's step into the shadowy corridors of justice, or rather, the absence of it, as we explore the Byzantine Court's secret trials. Unlike the public spectacles of Roman courts, where trials were often held in open forums, the Byzantine Empire preferred a more clandestine approach. These secret trials were held behind closed doors, far from the prying eyes of the public, and they became a powerful tool for maintaining control and eliminating political threats. The secret trials were not about fairness or transparency. Instead, they were a mechanism for the emperor and his inner circle to deal with perceived enemies of the state swiftly and decisively. Accusations of treason, heresy, or conspiracy were common charges, and the accused often had little opportunity to defend themselves. The trials were conducted in private chambers with only a select few present judges, accusers, and sometimes the emperor himself. This lack of witnesses and public scrutiny meant that the outcomes were often predetermined, serving the political interests of those in power. One of the most infamous examples of these trials involved the case of General Belisarius, a celebrated military commander who fell out of favor with Emperor Justinian. Despite his loyalty and numerous victories, Belisarius was accused of conspiring against the throne. He was subjected to a secret trial, stripped of his titles and imprisoned. While he was eventually pardoned, his case highlights how even the most prominent figures could be brought down by the opaque and manipulative nature of these proceedings. Political motivations behind these trials were rarely hidden. Rivals, dissenters, and even former allies could find themselves accused and condemned if they posed a threat to the emperor's authority. The trials were also used to send a clear message to others. Loyalty was non-negotiable, and any hint of disloyalty would be met with swift and severe consequences. This atmosphere of fear and suspicion kept the court in line, ensuring that no one dared to challenge the emperor's rule. But the secret trials were not just about eliminating enemies, they were also about maintaining the illusion of divine justice. By conducting trials in private, the court could control the narrative, presenting the emperor as a just and infallible ruler who acted in the best interests of the empire. The secrecy surrounding these trials added to their mystique, reinforcing the idea that the emperor's decisions were beyond question. As we reflect on this practice, it's clear that the secret trials were a double-edged sword. On one hand, they allowed the Byzantine court to maintain order and suppress dissent. On the other, they created an environment of paranoia and mistrust, where even the most loyal subjects could fall victim to the whims of those in power. And as we move forward, we'll uncover the final mysterious practice of the Byzantine court, the ritual of the Imperial bath, a ceremony that symbolized the emperor's divine status and the purification of his rule. Now, as we approach the final chapter of our journey through the Byzantine court's mysterious practices, we turn our attention to a ritual that was as much about symbolism as it was about purification, the Imperial bath. This ceremony was not merely a matter of hygiene. It was a profound act that underscored the emperor's divine authority and his role as the chosen ruler of the empire. The Imperial bath was a highly orchestrated event, steeped in tradition and religious significance. It was believed that through this ritual, the emperor was not only cleansed of physical impurities but also spiritually renewed, reaffirming his connection to the divine. The bath itself was often held in a specially designed chamber within the palace, adorned with intricate mosaics and symbols of power. The water, infused with rare herbs and perfumes, was said to possess sacred properties, further elevating the ceremony's importance. The ritual began with a procession of court officials, priests, and attendants, each playing a specific role in the proceedings. The emperor, dressed in ceremonial robes, would enter the bath chamber accompanied by chants and prayers. As he immersed himself in the water, the act was seen as a symbolic rebirth, a shedding of earthly burdens and a renewal of his divine mandate. This moment was not just for the emperor's benefit, it was a public declaration of his unassailable authority, witnessed by those closest to him. The imperial bath also served as a reminder of the emperor's role as the protector of the empire. Just as the water cleansed him, it was believed that his purified state would bring stability and prosperity to the realm. This idea of the emperor as a conduit for divine favor was central to Byzantine political theology, and the bath ritual reinforced it in a tangible, almost theatrical way. Interestingly, the ceremony was not without its political undertones. By controlling who was allowed to witness the ritual, the emperor could reinforce hierarchies within the court. Those granted the privilege of attending were seen as part of the inner circle, their presence a sign of trust and favor. Conversely, exclusion from the ceremony could signal a loss of status or influence, adding another layer of intrigue to the proceedings. As we reflect on the imperial bath, it becomes clear that this ritual was far more than a simple act of cleansing. It was a powerful symbol of the emperor's divine right to rule, a carefully staged performance that blended religion, politics, and tradition. Through this ceremony, the Byzantine court not only maintained the emperor's sacred image, but also reinforced the structures of power that held the empire together. And with that, we conclude our exploration of the 25 mysterious practices of the Byzantine court. From secret trials to sacred rituals, these practices reveal a world where power, mystery, and tradition intertwined in fascinating ways. If you've enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the past. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries that shape our world. As we wrap up our exploration of the Byzantine court's 25 mysterious practices, it's impossible not to marvel at how these rituals, traditions, and secrets shaped one of history's most enigmatic empires. From the shadowy meetings of the Silentium to the sacred symbolism of the imperial bath, each practice reveals a world where power was not just wielded but performed, where every gesture and ceremony carried layers of meaning. These practices weren't just about maintaining order, they were about crafting an image of divine authority, ensuring that the emperor's rule was seen as both unshakable and ordained by higher powers. What's truly fascinating is how these practices continue to captivate us today. Historians pore over ancient texts and artifacts, piecing together the intricate details of court life, while viewers like you are drawn to the drama and mystery of it all. The Byzantine court was a stage where politics, religion, and tradition collided, creating a legacy that still sparks curiosity and debate. Whether it's the intrigue of secret trials, the opulence of imperial feasts, or the symbolism of cryptic rituals, these practices remind us that history is never just about facts, it's about the stories, the secrets, and the human ingenuity behind them. If you've enjoyed this journey through the Byzantine court's hidden world, don't stop here. Dive deeper into the history of this fascinating empire and let us know in the comments which practice intrigued you the most. Was it the use of eunuchs as trusted advisors, the mysterious deaths of emperors, or perhaps the sacred rituals that reinforced their divine authority? Share your thoughts and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into history's greatest mysteries. Until next time, keep exploring the past, it's full of stories waiting to be uncovered.